Aside from a few tentative signs here or there, little has changed on the streets of Havana since Cuba and the United States announced that they would restore diplomatic ties after a break of 53 years.
The only change I've seen is that they released the prisoners. I hope that little by little we'll see changes, but it can't happen from one day to the next.
Following secret talks brokered by the Vatican, Havana agreed to free 53 dissidents and an American aid worker, while Washington released the remaining 3 prisoners of the infamous Cuban Five, who were jailed in 1998 for espionage. The two countries are also to begin talks to end the U.S. trade embargo imposed in 1962 and to take Cuba off Washington's list of countries sponsoring terrorism.
I think that there will be a normalization process, which will be very long and slow. But there's been a positive change right away. There's less pressure on the Cuban economy, less pressure on the Cuban government, and this should help improve things considerably.
Some U.S. restrictions on family travel and telecommunication companies are to be lifted, and the amount of money that Americans can transfer to Cuba has been increased from $2,000 to $8,000 a year. But human rights activist Elizardo Sanchez, who has spent more than 8 years on and off in jail for opposition activities, says the end of the embargo won't solve all Cuba's problems. For instance, President Raúl Castro still refuses to engage in dialogue with opposition groups.
I don't think there will be an immediate effect, particularly when it comes to civil and political rights here. I think the situation will continue to be the same because for it to improve, we need reforms, and the Cuban government doesn't want to make those reforms.
Travel between Cuba and the US is already allowed for certain people like families, diplomats or artists. But the tourism ministry believes lifting the embargo could bring 1 million more visitors to the island every year. And curiosity already seems to be surging. It's the second time Robert Penta has traveled to Cuba on an art license in 2 months.
We'll come back as often as we can, right, to learn as much as we can, because we think things are changing and are going to change very, very quickly. And so we want to really learn and see as much as we can before it all changes.
But there's a caveat. President Obama can't repeal the laws enforcing the embargo without action by Congress. With many lawmakers in the Republican-dominated House strongly opposing the changes, it might still be some time before Cuba comes in from the cold.